Kia ora, welcome to another episode of the podcast. I'm sitting here with my friend,
John Kieu.
and we hope that you enjoy this episode. And we're in. It's all good to go. Absolute privilege to have you here, man.
Wow, lucky to be here.
My favourite physio, probably my only physio, but still my favourite. Even if I had other physios, you would still be my favourite. So just what I want you to do, if you can just give a quick synopsis of who you are, what you do, and then we'll crank into this episode.
Yeah, so like Troy said, I'm a physio. Been a physio for about 4 years. Mainly do rugby, mainly do sports. So, I do the mighty AU and
fantastic.
Blue and gold at Otago Spirit.
Yep. Awesome, man. So that's it's one of those things where I've been with you, like pretty much getting very intimate. I've had no clothes on sometimes. You're touching me. You're rubbing.
You got a top on at least.
Yeah.
No, top off.
Sometimes,
Okay.
but sometimes I don't. But anyway, so it was a weekly thing where that was quite an intimate thing. But it's interesting where you can have those sort of moments, but barely know anything. Like you can know a lot about me as the person coming to you, but it's kind of like you had the screen between yourself, and I guess that's a confidentiality thing. But like now, just to know a little bit more about your reasons for getting into that sort of field. So when you were going through high school and then getting ready, because you studied down here, stayed down here to work.
Yep.
What was the driver, or was physio something you kind of always planned to do?
Yeah. So bit of background. My parents moved here about 27 years ago.
Right.
From Vietnam. So. But they make me second generation.
Second generation.
Yeah. So, with every Asian household, I had the drive to become a doctor.
Fantastic.
Come to uni, come study. What made me want to become a physio instead of a doctor was I went to a doctor for my mum. She had carpal tunnel.
Yeah.
For most of her life. Doctors were like, "Here's a cortisone injection. Here's some drugs.
Yeah.
Just rest. You'll be fine." We moved to Te Puke when I was about 13, 14, swap doctors, and the doctor said, "Oh, look, why don't you go see a physio?"
Yeah.
And then obviously coming from Vietnam, we didn't know what a physio was. We were just doctors, was your only medical professional.
Yeah.
We went to a physio. Mine's a bit blurry, but 6, 8 sessions later, she came out with pain-free hands, no numbness, no morning pain, and she was basically good to go again.
Right.
Yeah, she's been battling that for a solid 20, 30 years of her life.
Damn.
Yeah, it's crazy.
How cool is that? And I think this is the stuff that most people who are thinking about going into, because it's typically migrant families. A lot of the time they see either a lawyer or a doctor. This is the way we're getting out, and this is the way, and that's why a lot of the move here is for that next generation to hopefully get into a well-paying job. But it was usually lawyers and doctors.
Yeah.
And at what age? Sorry, did you say that was like okay? That changed your perspective.
Yeah, around 13, 14.
13, 14.
Yep. So that kind of just started that we fuel for me to become physio.
Right. Man, that's so cool. And then so because you kind of had that idea that this is something that you could get into, did you kind of tailor your schooling towards that?
I mean, I just thought physios and doctors, it was the same thing. I researched I still health sci first year.
Yep.
It's still a competitive entry. So did I change much? Nah, not really. Just kind of carried on high school.
Yeah.
Tried to live my best life in high school, really. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then just gone to university and just got stuck into it basically.
Awesome. And then coming to university. So you're leaving home, you're going as far south as possible.
Basically.
And, I don't know if there were pressures or maybe like feeling like a bit of a sacrifice, having to leave your family and all that. Was that like, what was that move like?
I think I had the great privilege that my parents were quite relaxed.
Yeah.
They adopted that Kiwi mentality quite quickly. Just she'll be right. Just chill out, do whatever you want as long as you're happy, sort of thing.
Cool.
I still had that that wee pressure at the back of my head to succeed in the medical field. But otherwise, they agree with my choice to go down south. It's a lot nicer down here. People are nicer. It's a lot more relaxed environment compared to Auckland.
Sure.
And that's the AET, Auckland or Otago. So it's a pretty easy choice to come down south where it's just a lot more relaxed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get away from the hustle and bustle because I used to be from Auckland.
Right.
I was born in Auckland, raised there since I was 10. So I wanted to get away from that again.
Yeah.
I don't want to reintroduce that busyness of Auckland.
And then so when you did move down here and like going from that transition, into like 'cause, like really the culture here is something that you can only hear about so much, but like until you live it, you're like, holy that is actually something else. So like that transition period for you coming into first year health sci, which is like a ridiculous year. Like the amount of people who come into that and just like have no idea what to expect. Where were you kind of on that spectrum of coming down and preparedness for it?
Oh, I was not prepared at all.
Right.
I don't think you can prepare to come to health sci. I didn't know how to study.
Yeah.
You know, in high school, it's just assignments. You just kind of write an assignment, like, boom, you're done. But I had no idea how to study. It took me a solid semester to actually properly learn how to study. And by that point, I got, luckily, I got good enough grades that I didn't have to take another paper anyway. So it was a tough transition, that's for sure. Yeah. You know, being at home for 18 years, being mothered, you know, having your food cooked for you, being cleaned for, then coming down here where you're by yourself, basically, in a hostel. It's such a big change, but I'm so glad I did it.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah. And then having to adapt to the social pressures as well. Not pressures, I guess, but like the social element, because you're moving to a new place. You want to make new friends. And like if you're from a smaller place, like you don't have many people from your school who end up coming down either. So like what was that like for you? Because did you feel kind of isolated for a little bit, or did you feel that you gelled into it pretty quickly?
Yeah, I think I felt quite isolated. I'm not a social person at all.
Right.
I think maybe only 5 people from my high school actually went to university.
Yeah.
5, 10.
Right.
Very small handful, and then only one came down to Otago. And luckily we're in the same hostel, but we were in different buildings of the hostel. So I had to definitely make my own friends and stuff. And it was hard. Yeah, I wouldn't say it was easy.
Yeah.
Did I gel quickly enough? Yeah, sure. You just had to adapt to it.
Yeah. And it's enough to get the work done, because your primary goal, I guess, is to make sure that you get through that first year and then you can live a good life after when you get into your course. Now, I have had the privilege of teaching physio students at second and third year, and they are the most like get amongst people of all time. So even if you're not very social, you're going to be social.
Yeah, you learn. You learn.
So did you find that when you like as soon as you got into the course that it just became a tight knit bunch pretty quickly?
Yeah. I mean, I remember my first lab. It was first week of physio, second year. It was a massage lab. And then all I remember was, all right, everybody, tops off, do a massage. I was like, oh, dear Lord, all right. So it broke the ice so quick. And it's maybe a better person, because you have to be social to be a physio.
Yeah.
It's such a social job, like, you know, and being a patient as well and teaching the second years.
Yeah.
You just have to adapt, no matter what your personality is.
And was there anything, so like during your studies, you kind of have a fair idea on where physio would get you in terms of jobs or a career, but did you have in mind like where you wanted to go with this degree, or did you just want to get through it and see what comes up? So going back to the story of my mum, being a hand therapist was actually my original goal to come to physio. So hand therapy, because that's who she saw, a physio, but hand therapist at the same time. So my initial reason to come to physio was to be a hand therapist. Yeah. And then what was it during your practice that you kind of wanted to go a little bit more broad and just become a physio? Not just become, sorry, but like, physio? Move out of just focusing on hand.
Starting work. Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
Starting work. I just got dropped into some sports teams.
Yeah.
And that's how I started. Didn't have a choice really, to be honest, but I enjoyed it nonetheless. My 4th year, that's when I really learned about the other aspects of physio as well. Hospital, I did pediatrics, I did outpatients. My elective was hand therapy, so I was like, wow, this is actually pretty dope, being a hand therapist, and that does further cement my love for it.
Right.
But as soon as I graduated and I started working and got into sports teams, I was like, wow, this is it. This is where I want to be.
Cool. And that's what I think we're going to have a huge conversation on that. So we'll come back to the sporting aspect of it, because you've got some really cool career opportunities coming up very shortly. But, just going through your studies and like having the opportunities to do all those different things, like did you feel like, because you said before you're not a very social person, but like the front, not a front, but the, the kind of professionalism that you have to carry, and then you have to be social, you have to be switched on all the time with people, making them feel comfortable. What was that a skill that you feel like you had to learn, or something that you kind of just like naturally fell into?
I think that's a natural thing I fell into.
Okay.
Just how I was raised, to be honest. I had a huge family back in Vietnam and also in Auckland. So I would meet aunties, uncles that I've never met before, and cousins I've never met before, and I don't really like meeting new people. I'm going to be completely honest. But being forced into situations as a family really helped develop that skill to, like I said, you are putting up a front. Really, you're putting up a front to be presentable and to invite people in, to talk to them, to be sociable. So it is a learned skill that I developed as I was younger, which then just carried on and it became more as I became a physio. Yeah.
And when you're doing that, because like, I guess physio is a bit, it is hands-on. It is very intimate with someone else. And especially if this is the first time you're meeting them, some of the things that you're asking people to do, they've probably never been asked to do before, like removing clothing. Not just that, but like the positions you're putting people in, the amount of discomfort that they could go through as well. Like for you, how long did it take you to feel like when you went into your job, were you already comfortable doing that because of how much you had done during your course? Or is it still something that's evolving?
No, I think you break that hands-on barrier quite quickly in physio school.
Yeah.
Once you start working, that's kind of normal for you to get hands-on. So I wouldn't say it's it's not further developing. I'm quite comfortable. I was comfortable enough in my first year.
Yeah. And because it's that confidence, and like if you're saying to someone like, okay, this is what we're gonna do, and then like feel like I think that might be what then they're gonna be like, no,
I don't want you to touch me then.
Yeah,
100%.
For sure, because like a lot of the times, people forget that you put in so many years and so many hours of actually doing that stuff. So by the time you come to your job, you should be pretty ready.
You should be ready. You should be ready. I don't think any new grad is ready for physio. It's so different to the fourth year.
Wow.
So different. I think it's the step up from second to third year. Yeah, it's big. Third year to fourth year, that's also huge. But fourth year to actually working, that's like Mount Everest almost for some people.
Wow.
It's just the body's so different.
Yeah.
Anatomy is so different. You can't prepare for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for you to stay on top of that, because that can be quite nerve-wracking for a lot of people. Like some people are okay. They're just like, oh, I'll figure it out.
Yep.
But other people, for myself really, I need to pretty much know and have a really good idea on how things are going to go. So what did you do to, like, when you study and finish and then go into your job, is there like continuing study that you have to do, or do you do study for your own self to keep up on that?
With physio, you have to continue your own personal development, CPD.
Right,
So it's a requirement.
Awesome.
So I'm constantly, I'm doing postgrad this year, so I'm constantly learning.
Yeah.
But even if I was just working, you would have to do, I believe, 40 hours of CPD a year.
Wow. Okay.
So will that be like in services, reading articles, reading blogs, going to courses, that sort of stuff. So you constantly have to keep learning as a physio.
Yeah. And I think that's really important. It's important for a lot of fields because there's a lot of, there's so many different things that people are knowing, and, being in research, so many new things come out all the time. So 100%. If you're not staying on top of the literature or even just like what's out there, there's going to be a part where like you're just going to run into things and people are going to be like, oh, but we do this now. And you're like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. I mean, with physio, you can do pretty much what you want as long as you can clinically reason.
Sure.
It's just the evidence that will back your clinical reasoning for that.
And that thing, evidence.
Evidence.
And,
big word, huge word.
Yeah, so staying on top of that. So if you're doing postgrad, is postgrad for physio, is it you looking at specific topics, or is it you just actually like continuing your upskilling?
Continue upskilling.
Okay.
So I'm doing postgraduate certificate in sports physiotherapy.
Yes.
There's manipulative, there's pediatrics, there's a couple of other things as well. I'm just doing sports.
Right. Yep. And now, okay, this is the big one. And you talk to physios often, and you talk to humans, like regular humans often, who, like your mother, like your family, thought that doctors were the only way. And we're not discrediting doctors. What I'm trying to say is that there's multiple pathways to getting someone more, I guess, not just rehabilitated, but also increasing their quality of life. What's your philosophy in terms of like dealing with people, that kind of thing? Like when you are working, what's the stuff that gives you the most fulfillment in your job?
The most fulfillment, just getting them moving again. Yeah. Really achieving the goals that they want to do. It goes back to my mum, she had trouble gripping and had trouble holding anything for more than half an hour. Then she came out of physio being able to do that for hours on end without much trouble at all.
Right.
So I can give you, for an example.
Yep.
With your shoulder injury, you could barely move your arm.
Yeah.
For that first week and a bit.
Yeah.
You could barely do a push up. You could barely go back to the gym.
Yeah.
And even though you say it's like, oh no, it's fine. I'll push it. I always know that will always play in your mind that you can't return to gym, you can't return to activity, and that will constantly play in your mind. And I know that, even though you won't tell that to me, just with the amount of people I've seen. So seeing you return to the gym and hearing you say, oh, yo, I benched the other day and it was completely pain-free and I feel good. And that what gives me fulfillment. Yeah, it's that the people saying, I'm back to where I want to be, and it's pain-free.
Yeah. No, that's so cool. And I think, these are stupid little athletes like me who choose to do this sort of stuff. But then there's probably so many people, and I'd love to hear it, where being with the confidentiality as well, but, people who live their lives just thinking it's normal to be in this much pain. How often do you come across those sorts of people and then you release them and they're like, whoa.
Quite often, this is work. People that go to work with hard laborious jobs, with not carpal tunnel, but like tennis elbow, just wrist pain. I will see them first. They're like, "Oh yeah, I've had this pain for about year and a bit, or maybe 2 years. It's just been a bit of a niggle." And then treating them for in a couple of weeks, and they come out of my room and say, "Oh, I can go back to work and I don't feel anything."
Yeah.
It happens so often. People live for pain.
Right.
People live for pain, no matter how big or small. It's just once they come into the clinic and they see that, oh shit, it actually is quite sore. And then seeing them come out being pain free, that's an amazing feeling. Not gonna lie, you feel like Superman almost sometimes.
And it's funny because probably in your head you've got an idea, you've got a plan in your mind of this is how it needs to go.
Yep.
But then it's almost like you have to have the belief from the person as well to come in to continue doing the sort of stuff that's going to be good for them. Is that for you? What are the strategies for you to actually make people believe that this is something necessary?
I try to pin it back to them.
Okay.
I try to make them reflect about why they're here themselves.
Yeah.
A lot of people come and say, "Oh, I'm sore. You can fix me," but they don't believe themselves almost.
Yeah.
They almost see me as the person that's going to do it for them.
Yeah.
But 90% of the time, it's their own person that should be helping themselves, and it's trying to convince them of that.
Yeah.
Once I can convince them of that through just reflective listening, motivational interviewing, that's when the achievements come out.
Yeah.
It's more, physical therapy, 100%. But that mental side plays such a huge role as well.
Absolutely.
And I don't ignore it.
Yeah. Yeah. And now you said a word before that probably everyone's familiar with, and that's pain.
Yep.
And pain management and all that sort of stuff. Now that's, because a lot of that is psychosocial as well. A lot of the stuff
100%.
that's happening in the mind, but also, because there's some, the classic tales that they have of the back pain, the phantom pains and all that. Was that something that before you started experiencing it with people coming in that you understood, or was it something that you needed to see multiple cases of to start really getting it?
Yeah, no, I had to see so many cases of that to really get a grasp of it. Physical pain is easy to see.
Yeah.
You have a cut, it's sore. Or you have an AC that's popped up, that's sore. But seeing that invisible pain, I haven't experienced it myself. So how can I empathize or relate to that? But seeing multiple cases of those that made me understand what it's all about.
Yeah.
And how important that that psychosocial side of it really is. Yeah.
Man. Yeah, because that stuff, the more you read into it and the more you just see that it can really be debilitating for a lot of people. You're just like, well, shouldn't it just be this? And then it's very easy to just be like, you should go get help for something else. But
for sure.
For you to make them, to believe and start helping them through that, do you just go through the same process you would for most people? Yeah.
Just trying to talk about what pain is.
Yeah.
Talk about nociception, talk about central pathways, talk about your brain. A lot of people don't want to hear, oh, it's just in your head.
Right.
Sort of thing. So it's trying to convince people that, yes, it is in your head, but why is it in your head? What's actually happening to make you perceive this? Once they understand that, they're generally more accepting of that psychosocial side of pain. Right.
And this is something that you wouldn't get if you just because this is something where you hear multiple instances of people going to a doctor, they're now just telling you no, there's nothing wrong.
Yeah.
And then it just goes on and you just live with it for the rest of your life.
Yep.
But for you to actually believe, take them as a human really, and then working through it with them there. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So not talking about pain itself, but tying that into function as well.
Yeah.
So function is key. Yep, 100%.
So when you talk about function now, because, oh my goodness, I remember back in the CrossFit days, it came in functional fitness. But when you're talking about function, what are the fundamentals of function?
Sitting up.
Okay.
Sitting down.
Yeah.
Just basic day-to-day things.
Yeah.
And that's the basic function stuff.
Yeah.
For an athlete, for CrossFit, their functional movement is, skipping, pull-ups, that sort of stuff. So that's functional for them.
Yes.
Functional is very subjective.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't call an exercise functional without relaying it back to the person that you're giving it to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when we did all this in the sports injury stuff where, like, you can look at someone and you can say that they are asymmetrical and that makes them dysfunctional, but they're functional for their sport.
Yes.
Like a lot of that sort of stuff as well. And then there's like the general injuries or the general kind of, in tennis, for example, they have a huge forearm on one side, like all that. You could say that's dysfunctional, but for the sport,
it's functional.
Yeah.
Very functional. Like for rugby, forwards, they'll all have stiff, tight necks to protect themselves from contact.
Sure.
Swimmers, hypermobile shoulders.
Absolutely.
To be able to swim.
Yeah.
And like you said, with tennis players, one huge arm. But hopefully not. Hopefully it's not that asymmetrical, but yeah.
Yeah, and then I know the cyclists, I think they have the extended, like from being bent over so much.
Yeah.
But, those are all things that if you take them into the context of their overall being as well, that's cool. I love that chat about function. So when you're going through a needs assessment with someone, are those the sorts of things you're like trying to get to the bottom of?
Yeah, like what did they need?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I could, if I saw a random person and said, "Oh, you're very asymmetrical, we need to fix this," that doesn't really matter. It makes me sound cool.
Yeah.
It makes it sound good, but for them, they were like, "Well, what does it matter to them?" So you need to tie it into what they need to do.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now that's actually a really good place to take it in terms of, social media physios and social media people really in general, talking about strength and conditioning, talking about all that sort of stuff. And they're like, this is wrong. You must do this. Like because you probably now get a lot of people who come to you thinking they know what's right and what they should be doing and what they shouldn't be doing. How do you have those tricky conversations where,
that is a hard conversation. I try not to be like, no, that's wrong.
Yeah.
I always again tie it back to what they need to do. It's like, well, yes, I would say I wouldn't agree with it.
Yeah.
Some of the things that other social media people are saying, but I just try to steer away from it.
Sure.
And then go back into my evidence-based clinical reasoning sort of model. Yeah. So, social media is a good and bad thing, I guess.
Yeah.
It's definitely made people more active, which is great.
Yep.
But there is a lot of misinformation out there, which if it's downright wrong, then I will stamp it out. If it's kind of like, well, it's not bad, it's not good, it's probably not doing any harm, I'm like, just keep doing it.
Sure.
It's not going to harm you. Well, then just if you enjoy it, sure, go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. And I think that the harm word is probably pretty huge there, because what I realized with you, and this is why I ended up trusting you, is that you kind of, it was never, everything that you were doing was to make sure that we were as safe as possible during the season. So now going into the athlete scene and you're like the difference, how you go from your day-to-day job with like everyday people, then you come to us with like just the worst types of people you could work with. All we'd like to do is try to be okay for Saturday, just beat up all week and then just like, you got through, whereas like in the perfect world, we would have no pain. We'd go through. You'd rest us if like it's just the slightest niggle and there's a potential for more. Ethically, for you, what was that like? Getting over that and just being like, okay, but will you die? No. Okay.
Okay. No? Again, it goes back to the goals. Your goal will be to play the Saturday.
Yeah.
And be as safe as possible.
Yeah.
Ethically, that did make me quite nervous in my first year. I was like, oh, you're still sore. Like, can I really push you? But mate, the human body is amazing what it can adapt to.
Sure.
It's crazy. So just learning that side where you can literally just push that body to that break and it actually won't break down.
Right.
And just learning that and saying to myself, oh yes, a bit of pain. Structurally it's fine.
Right.
So you can push that pain and there will be, I want to say okay, but you won't make it worse.
Right.
Yeah. And that thinking that way made me really push that boundary a lot more. Yeah, especially for let's go back to the Saturday game.
Right. Yeah, because it is true. I mean, and you were really good at managing us through the week as well. So like the types of contact we should do, these things we shouldn't do, but like you'll have enough so that by the time Saturday comes, you're good to go.
Yeah.
And I just we always laugh about it, how like I start the season with no tape.
Yeah.
And then by the end of the season, I like tape on my wrist, got a rub on my back.
Yeah, tape on your thigh. Yep.
So all of that, but that's not you knowing that in the end we're going to be safe.
Yeah. It's about risk reward assessment.
Yep.
If you play this weekend, will you come out of it worse? And if you do, was it worth it?
Yeah.
So it's just weighing up that risk reward.
Yep.
100%.
Cool.
That's what it all boils down to.
Yeah.
So if it's a random round robin game where you had the full season left to go, I'm gonna say, look, if you play this weekend, you might get well sore, but for what? It's not an important game.
Yeah.
Just rest up. We'll get you back for the next 2 weeks.
Awesome. Yeah. So, I guess that does come into that. And that's a difficult conversation, I guess, that you have to have. Now, this is where I want to get into the mind of the medic or the physio on the side, okay?
Jeepers.
Regular games going on, you all have your headsets on. Yep. So, for those who are listening, this is... Oh, actually, you'd see this man in the Farah Palmer Cup now.
Yep,
and
okay.
There's it's happening more and more, actually. I'm starting to see where people are just looking like they're knocked out on the ground. You're on the sideline. You see someone wearing the colours that you're supporting, your team. You see someone on the ground looking dead, pretty much. I don't know if it's like now people are doing it to have more time, but anyway, that's besides the point.
Yeah.
You see them. What goes through your mind?
Ah, shit.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
Here we go.
Yeah.
I've had the experience and luck to go through a couple of courses to deal with those type of situations. To recognize someone if they've actually been knocked out, how to safely assess their spine, safely assess their neck, make sure they're breathing. So I've been trained for that.
Yeah.
And because I've been trained for that, I just go through a system.
Okay.
So whenever shit hits the fan, we never see someone get knocked out and they're laying in a weird position. Of course I panic. Who wouldn't panic?
Yeah.
But I just have to put on that front of being calm, collected, and then just run through my system that I go through every single weekend to make sure I have down pat, and then it's fine.
Yeah.
Well, it's not fine, but it's fine for me to be the medic that I have to be.
Yeah, and I think that there's that part of it as well. It's like actually having people calm down. So if you run out there, you're like, oh, then the person who's meant to be, who's like in so much pain, then like it must be bad. It's it's the typical like you go through turbulence. I'll always look at like the people going up and the staff.
Yeah,
I'm like, nah, they're all good. They're fine.
Then it should be okay. Yeah. Like I think you may have seen it, but whenever someone goes down, I just kind of just stroll up and say, "Are you good?"
Yeah,
and then they normally just look at me. And then they just immediately calm down. So coming into that situation, being calm, definitely counts on the person as well.
Yeah, nice. And now take it to the next level when you see someone go down, but there's someone who there was contention around whether they should play or not.
Right.
All right, because at the end of the day, it's the coach's decision and the player's decision.
For playing?
Yeah.
And the medical.
And like you've given your thing. Yep. They ended up playing, and you were
on the fence.
You were on the fence about it. You then see them go down. Mm-hmm. Now what's going? Or do you just go through the same system?
Same system.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be like, well, I told you so. I might say afterwards.
Yeah.
But same system.
Yeah.
Same system. Because I now know that they have an increased risk of that whatever injury they had.
Yeah.
Of course, I'll be looking at them more.
Right.
So if they do go down, it's just, again, same system.
Cool.
And assessing them if they can return to play.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was something that we've all put you in that position before where, we are injured, but we don't want to let our coaches down. So we ask you, like, hey, can you please let them know just how bad this injury is?
Yep.
Now you're the bearer of bad news. Is that like something that you don't like doing, or are you very good at just being like, this is how it is?
Oh, I still hate saying to players, oh yeah, nah, you're not playing this weekend, or going back to the coach and like, nah, he's out for 4 to 6 weeks. It sucks.
Yeah.
It always sucks, but someone's going to do it.
Yeah.
And I'll do it.
Yeah.
You get used to it.
Okay.
That's it. I want to say you get comfortable with it. You just get used to saying those type of things to the players and coaches.
And you're objective.
Yeah.
Like you're just going from, this is what the data says, and that's it. Yeah.
Like they did this.
Yeah.
This means they're out for this week.
Right.
Or whatever X amount of weeks, and this is the process to get them back playing.
Yeah. Nice.
So it should be very structured.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which makes it easier for me as well.
Awesome. And now falling into the rugby, so we kind of just went into what you get up to during the games and dealing with us, but actually getting into, getting your foot in that door. How does that come about? If you're not you weren't a rugby player or anything?
Oh God, no. no. You think I'm a rugby player?
Oh, maybe. Who knows?
Nah. I'm a big wuss, mate.
Yeah. Okay.
If I get tackled, I'll probably cry.
Right. So we've got the big wuss, right?
Yep.
And rugby is not a sport. You're not watching it. You're not really too into it at all.
Before working at this job, I I don't think I've fully watched a full rugby game.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so then how does rugby become the sport that you become the medic for?
Pure luck.
Yeah.
Honestly, pure luck. I'm not gonna lie. I got into the job at Eclipse with my old boss. Didn't really know it was the Otago Rugby Clinic.
Sure.
I had no idea. I was like, oh, this boss is me. Mean location. It's got a full-size gym. So I started working there.
Yeah.
And suddenly, I think I was working for about 2 months, and then he said, "Okay, here's your rugby club." I was like, "Oh, all right, cool." Then I started training. Then 4 months later, he said, "Cool, here's FPC."
Right.
And I'm like, "Oh, flip, all right."
Yeah.
So I can't say I worked for it.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie. I just got dropped into it. I got lucky.
Yeah.
But I turned that luck into something I really want to do.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, like you can, a lot, and I come across it with a lot of people where they feel like they just got dropped into something, but to maintain the job, like you could have easily been kicked out because you were just shite.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I just enjoyed it after the first year.
Yeah.
During that first year, I was knackered, eh? I mean, going to trainings all the time, having no Saturdays, basically for 8 months of the year. I didn't really enjoy that time, to be honest. But as the seasons went on, as the teams kept winning, as I got your players back and getting that good feeling again to say, yo, you can play this weekend.
Yeah.
That then further developed my love for the sport.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then talking, I was straight up to the team. So I was like, oh, I have no clue about rugby, and you guys took me under your wing almost. Where this is the positions. This is how you pass a ball. My passing was atrocious 4 years ago. It's okay now. I wouldn't say it's amazing, but I surprise people here and there. It's just spending time with it almost and learning to love it.
Yeah.
And now I just love it in general.
Yeah. That's cool because I do think like it would be daunting, like so scary to go daunting. In, and because like you don't really have too much of an understanding of you probably read some like needs analyses of rugby in general for the different you know the mileage that people will go through, the types of contact, the types of injuries, but until you actually get that time being with the injuries, being with the people who are getting the injuries, you kind of just like, I think that's normal, that might be normal. So like that learning curve for you, was that more exciting or scary?
Bit of both.
Yeah.
Bit of both. Learning, is that a normal injury?
Yeah.
And is that an actual injury?
Right.
I think just treat all injuries. I think that first year I treated all injuries as an injury.
Yep. And
I was definitely a bit more conservative in that first year because I didn't know how much I could push the player.
Yeah.
Or push that injury.
Yeah.
So it was definitely. But yeah, scary and exciting, but I'll say more on the side of scary.
Yeah, sure.
Hence my reactions to how I treated people back then.
Yeah, and plus, like, a lot of it, you don't want to be that person who is partially responsible for, like, someone being out for a season.
Yeah. You're going to be like, I think you'd be good to go. Play another game, bam, ACL done, and it just falls back on you.
Yeah.
Hence why safety is so key.
Yeah.
And you know that as well.
Absolutely, yeah. So, and that's been something that I also think maybe helps is that it's always been normal to have a medic. Yeah. So like in most of the environments you go into, because I can only imagine what it would be like going into a place where you're not really too familiar with rugby, but they're also not familiar with what it's like to have a medic.
Oh God, that sounds like my nightmare.
Could you just go there like, I'm here for this, then just like no one, like because you come in and you're fairly respected straight away, right?
Yeah. Thankfully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how was that for you? So like coming into and meeting new people in a sporting environment, like do you actually feel like you belong pretty quickly?
I wouldn't say quickly.
Yeah.
Almost like imposter syndrome, eh? Yeah, where I had to almost kind of fake who I was to really be comfortable in that environment. I'm a quiet, go in the background sort of guy. So being that forefront, being that guy that makes decisions and calling things out, definitely made me super uncomfortable. But you just gotta, like you said, just gotta put it in the front until it makes you comfortable enough.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you just get to a point where everyone's like, you're like the main guy that everyone looks for, which is pretty cool. Man.
Which is cool. Yeah. Which is again another good feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now, just for everyone listening, so who's on the other side? So maybe like the athletes or for people genuinely going to the physio, you must have pet peeves.
Pet peeves.
Yeah. What are the things that frustrate you? So obviously our team is full of people who probably just have the worst ethic and when it comes to practice with a physio. And we'll start with our team. What are the things that most people would do that just drives you insane?
Not telling me your injuries on the Saturday or Sunday, and then coming to a Tuesday train and say, "Oh yeah, John, so I think I rolled my ankle on the weekend. Can I train tonight?" And then looking at your ankle and it's swollen.
Yeah.
And I'm like, nah, bro, you can't. That's a pet peeve. Not showing up to appointments. I think that's everyone's pet peeves, really, if you don't show up.
Yeah.
Not doing rehab.
Yeah.
I should be more harsh on people not doing their rehab, to be honest. People come and say, "Oh, I haven't done my rehab." And I'll say, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
And they just keep going. So, my pet peeve, I think my biggest pet peeve, for AU, was not communicating injuries early.
Right.
Yeah. I'm not talking about everyone.
Yeah.
You know, there's certain individuals, and again, those certain individuals are good and bad sometimes too. You know? Yeah. So,
nice.
Please tell me your injuries on a Saturday or Sunday. Yeah. That's all I want.
I think that goes for everything though, eh? Like it's just being able to... But do you also find that it's... Like, what was the fear around people telling you? Because I even noticed that I did it. Like, I was better. I would tell you pretty much the day of or the day after.
Yeah.
When I'm like, yeah, this is actually sore. But, you know, what are the... Because there's implications for being injured.
Yeah.
So, like, how do you get that out of people?
Oh, that's a hard question, eh?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the medical personnel.
Right.
So I'm the one that feeds back to coaches if you're available and fit to play.
Yeah.
So the implication of if you come to me too late, I can't clear you safely that you can play this weekend, and it stuffs up the whole planning of the whole week.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it just puts more pressure because I have to think more on my feet, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like where I find out on Friday night that I'm playing flanker. That sort of stuff.
Yeah. See, it's exactly like, oh shit, what do I do?
Yeah.
Okay. It's that.
So it's an entire system. Like everyone is part of it, and then that small little, like it's not just you, but it's everyone else who's then affected after.
Yeah. Obviously, the athlete's in the middle way. Then there's coaches coming in, physio, doctor, family.
Yeah.
But then outside that circle of athletes, the circle outside of everybody else, of the subsystem, are also connected.
Yeah.
So we need to know. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's that. We go through. We get through a season, and then we find out. You know, this is your last season with us, and you get to go on to cool things. But also, you've been an integral part of the Otago Spirit. So part of the Fire Palmer Cup. The FPC, the women's NPC equivalent, and they, you know, that's been a team that you've been with them for
4 years now.
4 years as well, right? So that's also something that with your new move, which we'll get to shortly, but you know you're leaving behind, and that as well. So being at that level, seeing the women's game grow, I think talking about rugby in general, you being part of that and seeing just like the years, the evolution, and just how the game itself has grown. For women, but also just the teams evolving.
Yep.
Like, what has that been like to be part of that?
It's crazy, eh? I mean, that first year I was a Spirit, we barely had any funding.
Yeah.
Not all games were televised. I think even like the 2 years before I started with Spirit, I think they had to pay subs to actually play. Or something like that. Yeah, they had to pay. They had to almost fundraise themselves to represent Otago. And then seeing steps of now every game's televised. Now there's so much more movement, there's so much more funding, there's so much more resources available. It's crazy. At the start, it almost felt like women's national rugby was at the same equivalent to club.
Yeah. And
now seeing there's an actual gap now, and it's a higher level. It's crazy to be a part of that.
Yeah.
Over the past 4 years.
Right.
Yeah.
And your expectations for yourself as well, because you know I don't know if you hadn't known rugby before it, then come in, you know, getting a job with the women's team. Yeah. For you, was that was that weird for you?
I grew up with 3 sisters.
Okay, right.
So it's kind of like, I didn't feel weird about it.
Right.
Yeah, not at all.
But then also, so like to see it grow, and then your expectations of yourself, but then your ability to grow yourself as a practitioner, did you feel that there were more and more opportunities as the game was growing as well?
100%. Yeah. Just more coverage, eh? More coverage. People viewed it as more professional as well.
Yeah.
Hence why it just got, you know, I just personally developed a bit more for it, and you have to step up.
Yeah.
At the start, I was still a step up to club. But now that it's a lot more professional, there's a lot more resources, you have to meet those standards too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it definitely made me grow.
Awesome. And as part of that, like moving up, was that just like a shoulder tap thing that you got dropped into it as well?
For FBC?
Yeah.
No, again, it was my old boss.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like, here you go. I was like, oh, shoot, okay.
Yeah, because as I'm aware, for pretty much anything that gets into New Zealand Rugby Union, so anything above club, a lot of those positions are filled for a long time.
Yes.
And it's just one of those things where like the timing has to be perfect for someone to drop out, and then they pretty much have their successor ready, and then they go into it. So now that you're part of that circle, like did you realize how much of a privilege it was when you started?
I didn't know it was a privilege to start, but in my second year, I was like, holy hecker.
Yeah.
This is a huge privilege because not everyone can do it.
Yeah.
Not everyone can do it, and not everyone stays in it for a long time because one, you might not actually love the environment, or two, you actually don't like being a medic.
Yeah.
But like I said, being in it for a while now, it's an amazing opportunity, and I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity to do it. And I'm sad I'm leaving.
Yeah.
If I could stay and just do rugby, I would.
Yeah.
But like we'll talk about it later, but just new opportunities and personal growth sort of stuff. So,
yeah, and that's been cool, and that's been something that we've been talking. So now that the season's over, or our season's over, and just in that last little bit, because pretty much all our conversations were like talking about Saturday and like talking about rugby, and then as soon as the season finished, we were like, so what are you up to?
Like, how are you? Who are you as a person, Troy? Yeah. And
then we started talking about future. You were just like, I think I'm leaving. And you made the announcement to a team, and we farewelled you at our last game. But yeah, what was the decision? Like, what was it that hit you, or how long has this been brewing?
It's been brewing for quite a while now.
Yeah,
I think over the past 2 years that I wanted to leave Dunedin.
Okay.
Just because I just felt like personally, not as a physio, but as John Boy himself.
Yep.
I felt like I wasn't growing personally, just because I wasn't challenged personally here.
Right.
Hence why I wanted to move to a different city, be uncomfortable.
Yep.
And use that uncomfortable situation and feeling to grow myself as a person.
Fantastic.
That was the main reason why I wanted to leave Dunedin.
And then so now, because the comfort that you do get into, I understand completely. It's just like, I've had a job, I've got a job if I want it, but it's just day to day. You have new challenges come in every now and then, but like that feeling like, okay, it's not quite do or die. It's not that dire, but if I don't do this, is everything gonna like still be okay? That push that you need. And where did you kind of consider as your first ports of call?
What was that?
Like your first ports of call for outside of Dunedin.
Outside Dunedin.
Where are we hoping?
Wellington.
Yeah.
There's also Australia.
Yeah.
As well. Just outside Dunedin,
okay.
Really. I'm just too comfortable here. That's it. I'm just too comfortable here.
Nice.
Where I feel like I'm just going through the motions.
Yeah.
The gears are turning, but they're not spinning faster, not spinning slower. It's just constantly there.
Yeah, which is nice. Like, I think to have that awareness, to be aware that like, okay, things have been pretty, like getting stale. Like you got to leave before it gets way too stale.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're just like, nah, stuff this, and you start questioning everything. So I don't know. Can we announce it?
Yeah.
Where you going?
Yep.
All right. Hit us.
So I'm going to Wellington.
Yep.
Going to work at Primal Rehab with Lee Van, who is a Hurricanes physio.
Yep.
And I'm just going to be doing the Hurricanes age grade stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is so cool. And the Hurricanes, I've talked about this multiple times, the greatest franchise in all of New Zealand.
Okay.
But to be in that circle as well, that's gonna take you to another level.
Yeah. So I'm just. It's almost like a stepping stone, to be in part of a new network.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to meet new people, which, like I said, I don't really enjoy, but to network and meet new coaches, new franchise, and grow myself as a physio.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're going to do a similar setup that you had here, where you have your day-to-day clinic stuff, and then working with the teams.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it'll literally be the exact same thing, to be honest, but with a different team, different boss, different environment, different workplace.
Yeah.
And hopefully that will generate some change for me.
Yep.
Yeah.
And in terms of being like, even just being part of that environment or going to a meeting, has there been any contact prior, or is this just going to be you just get dropped straight in and adapt?
Drop straight in again. Just be like, okay, cool, you want to come work at Wellies? I was like, yep, sure. And then, okay, cool, here's under 18s camp in October. I'm like, okay, dope.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to Wellington to do it straight away.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a person where if I had time, I would just kind of just piss around,
sure,
to be honest, and just kind of just procrastinate. So I almost kind of need that stress, that short turnaround to really push myself to do it.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've said I'm going to move to Wellington for about 2 years now,
Right.
or move away for 2 years now.
Yeah.
And having a short opportunity that come up just like that, made me like, okay, cool, I have to go like right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And being ready and being happy to go
To do it,
that as well.
yeah. I think I've mentally prepared myself.
Cool.
Maybe not physically.
Yeah.
But having that short turnaround has made me physically like, okay, I just have to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the move, so we were talking about this our last session. Now, so you get there, you like when we say dropped into it, you actually are just gonna like get there and go away.
Yeah, basically. So I would drive up to Wellington on the 28th, 29th.
Yeah.
And camp starts on the 1st of October. So I'll literally get to Wellington, maybe sleep the night.
Yeah.
And then hop on a plane or bus up to Napier for the camp.
And then get into it.
Get into it.
Yeah, so that's also like you're meeting the entire squad.
Yep.
You're
For the
getting
first
to know-
time.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then you have to like start that relationship building right away.
100%. Yeah.
Almost, I think would I prefer that? Yeah, I reckon that'd be kind of cool.
You reckon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's something about camp vibes.
Yeah.
Where like
Because you're stuck in that environment, eh?
Yeah.
You have to be together.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do think it'll be that should be good fun.
That'll be good fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now another thing that kind of touches on is the amount of travel that you've been able to do. So
Yeah.
with FPC as well, like we're traveling way more.
Way
like
more.
you actually get to go to different places and it's not all just kind of like local. And you're playing in stadiums now and all of that's happening.
Yeah.
So for you, just did you ever see this as a pathway?
No,
Yeah.
no, like I didn't watch sports
Yeah.
back in high school or in university, so I never thought I would be a traveling medical professional.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, we just have to say that, do you order extra mediums? Because you look super thick when you're on TV.
No, it's a size large, bro.
Are you sure?
It's a size large. I want to leave this podcast out now.
No, it's always like, it's just something about watching TV and seeing people you know.
Yeah.
That's always so cool. And you just go run out there and you're like, oh my gosh, I know that guy.
Yeah, yeah.
But for, there has to, any memes been made of you yet?
Any memes?
Do you get the Snapchats of you being on screen? Like,
I remember this one time. I was like Otago Sevens, and I think we won a tournament. I think the regional tournament down here. And then we were all lining up to high five the team, and then I got left hanging. The S&C literally just came over and just turned around, and I was like, I was live on TV with my hand up, and I just high fived myself and just walked off. There's still a video there somewhere, so I think some of the girls have it, but that's a meme.
right.
Yeah,
That's
quite
good.
proud of it.
Yeah.
No, I think I covered myself quite well.
Yeah.
Just shook my hand off.
Yeah.
And then bam.
Yeah, man. There's something different about being televised.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think about it really.
That's good. Well,
Yeah.
I don't think anyone ever does
Yeah.
until it comes out later, or you like finish the game and you start seeing the coverage coming out. And you're
Yeah.
like, oh gosh.
I'm like, what was I doing there?
Yeah.
Why is my hand shaking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, now watching yourself. Now this is another thing. When you watch yourself, because I don't know how many assessments you did where you like will watch yourself talking and all that, but seeing yourself out there and then watching yourself like later, seeing
Yeah.
someone video it, is it weird to watch yourself?
It is weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of makes you question, like, what am I actually doing in that situation? Like first person view, yourself. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, I feel confident. I
Yeah.
feel all good. Then look at it from the outside perspective. I'm like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
What am I doing? It's weird, eh?
Yeah.
It's weird seeing yourself outside your own body, I guess.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
in my mind, when we're doing things and then you watch the footage later, you're just like, I swear I was running so fast. Or
Yeah.
like, I thought that was a 40-meter run and
Yeah.
it's only like 10 steps.
You're like, oh, all right. Yeah. Like, oh, I thought I assessed that for way longer. It's like, now it's like, bam, 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 done. Away. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's good, I guess.
No, that's cool. And then, so I just have one more question on this stuff before we switch up the flavor a little bit and talk about some fashion stuff. No. But when you are working and you start to see like higher caliber athletes,
Yeah.
and a lot of them coming forward, does that change your process when you're thinking about how to deal with them, or do you just treat them like everyone else?
Treat them like everybody else, basically. So if you're in that high performance environment,
Yep.
obviously there are people who are striving to be better, and those who are comfortable in that environment, I treat them all the same. I think with those high performing athletes, I think I'll just try to push them harder because
Sure.
I know they want to,
Yep.
and I know they will.
Yep.
So that's the only thing I would change. Otherwise, I would treat them all the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And are there any? Oh, you don't have to say. Yeah, maybe. Is there just like some people that you just can't vibe with? Like athletes wise, or are they all pretty good?
They're all pretty good. I think all athletes are, they're all chill. We're
Similar
all chill.
purpose,
Yeah. Similar purpose. You're there for one goal.
Yep.
To win that game.
Sure.
So everybody's mindset is quite the same.
Yep.
I don't think I've had anyone that up and been like, oh, you're not a vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, speaking of vibe, and then the next one is that we have time slots to come and see you before the game.
Yep.
That is almost the most. It's so many different feelings through it. Like you can walk into one place, it's super tense, then one super chill. So when people are coming into you, how do you feed into that vibe of preparedness? Because everyone's going to have a different way of getting ready.
Yeah.
So for you, like, what are the senses that you kind of go off?
Some guys or some guys and girls will come in, headphones in, get strapped. I'm like, cool, I won't talk.
Yep.
They have that kind of mental, just be silent, focused. You would come in, all guns blazing, like, yo, what's up? I'm like, oh, yo, what's up? And just kind of be, you try to match the energy.
Sure.
You just match the energy, that's about it. Yeah.
Cool.
And if they feel stressed, I'll try to just be like, just chill and let them calm down a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then on that, in terms of matching energy, say something happened and you're about to come into this environment, what do you do for yourself to like get you ready so that when you move into that competitive environment that you're not bringing the external stuff in?
I just feel like I'm pretty good just switching on and off.
Right.
Yeah. So once I kind of enter a new environment, I just automatically become, okay, this is me now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't really have to prepare myself at all.
Okay.
It's always just there.
Yeah.
Once I enter a room, I'm there for a job. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I sometimes, this is a weird thought that I just thought I'd say. I, like, at times when I'm so nervous, I'm just like, man, I wish I was just the physio so that I don't have to go out and play.
Man, you guys had the harder job. I've just said just to make sure you guys are together,
right.
held together. You guys actually had to get there and perform.
Yeah, because
the 80 minutes.
The nerves, like I'm coming in, John, good to see you, bro. Yeah, I'm feeling good, man. But like inside, I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, like everything builds up to that 80 minutes.
Yeah.
Everything, the whole week builds up to just that single 80 minutes. So of course you'd be nervous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. No,
that's not you. It's not you. Everybody feels that same.
Yep. And now we're going to switch it because something that we were all very, very aware of straight away was that your shoe game was unbelievable. And the types of shoes that you would wear just to come and would be like, what, at training you're going to wear those Jordans? But then I found out back in the day, so before the market was all saturated, that was your thing.
Yeah, that was my thing. Yeah, so when did it even start? I think it started my first year of uni.
It's like well before.
Well before.
It's hot now. Like everyone's
so
doing
hot. That's why I'm not doing it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's way too saturated. Everybody, their mum, their kid. It's like 12-year-old kids that are doing it. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Just go play outside or something. No, it's been something I've been in for ages, and coming from I guess my household, we like to present well. So that kind of styling yourself, having nice clothes has always been something in my head.
Yeah.
But it was one of my mates actually that he and I met in first year.
Right.
I was like, oh, what are you wearing, bro?
Yeah.
Like his shoes, and I was like, Y3s, and I'm like, oh, what the heck are those? And that prompted me to kind of research that further. Sure. And that was the era when Yeezys just came out.
Yeah.
So that's when everything popped off.
Yeah.
And then being part of that just blew everything up.
Yeah.
Yeezys just blew up everything for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So did you like buy an authentic pair?
Yep.
What?
Yep.
How much did you drop on that?
Oh no, I got it like retail price.
Okay, right.
Yeah, I don't know how I got it.
Sure.
Yeah. Was it Pirate Blacks, I think?
Right.
Yeah.
And then from there, like getting into them and just getting so many pairs of shoes.
Yeah.
Like how did you actually make it a sustainable thing?
It's just flipping.
Yeah.
You buy it retail,
yeah,
or you buy it for slightly below market,
yeah,
and then you resell it for, resale price.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then when did that how did that become a thing? Because, it's such a, there are so many knockoffs as well. Like there's so many different things where this could be real, this could be, and there's only the people who are gonna buy it and spend top dollar for it who will be very good inspectors of it. Yeah. So like, did you ever get? Was there ever like times where you could have been in danger?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Anytime you buy like for example Yeezys, so many defects on the market.
Yeah.
But the more you handle them, the more you see them, the more you research about them.
Yeah.
You can tell what's a fake and what's not a fake. There's just telltale signs. Yeah. Yeah.
Man, that's kind of cool. That's actually really cool.
Yeah.
And how do you not get, as Biggie would say, high on your own supply and like make sure that you are flipping and not just like keeping them, because it'd be so cool just to have a huge collection, which you probably do.
I did in the past.
Yeah. But then like to make sure that this is part of like the business side of things, and these ones are for me.
Yeah. I think seeing the profit margin was enough for me.
Yeah.
Like I'll buy a shoe for what, 160.
Yeah.
And then knowing that I can, if I don't wear it, I can sell it for like 800.
Right.
That was enough for me not to wear the shoes.
Holy crap.
Yeah. So I think the largest profit margin I ever made, and this is actually not much compared to what some shoes are today.
Yeah.
But the biggest I've made was about 1K.
Holy.
Pure margin, pure
Just
profit.
yeah.
1K or 1.2K, can't remember.
Right.
Yeah.
And what possesses people? Sorry, no.
What possesses people?
To like actually spend that money on a pair of shoes? Because like from an external perspective, where you just don't really care too much about the shoe game, you're not into it, you're not the culture of it. But like, is this is it a status thing, or what is it about these that people would actually throw the money at it?
100% status, eh?
Right.
100% being able to say I have these shoes, or being saying I can wear these shoes, and I know it costs a lot, but I can still wear it.
Yeah.
Collecting as well. You know, people collect watches, collect stamps. You know, people collect things for whatever reason they want to. It's just that shoes were another thing to collect.
It is so cool.
Yeah.
And you were doing this like, what, 2000, like over 6 years ago, over 7 years ago.
Yeah, I think I started 2016.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when I first started.
That was like the early days. Like, no one was even thinking about doing that sort of stuff.
God, no. I mean, I think back in the day, not much people thought about investing in much at all.
Yeah.
I think that really blew up in the past 2 years, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because everyone's got like a vintage business or something where like people are buying and flipping. Yeah.
100%.
But this was like before.
OG.
Yeah. That's so cool, man. And we got to get that out there because, and for you, the what do you think? So there was the margin that you had, but like the coolest shoes. It won't be like, you know how some people collect Pokemon cards and then they finally got like this rare Charizard. What was your
my grail?
Yeah.
What was my grail? I actually did get this grail. It was the Adidas Y3 CG knits.
Right.
Worn by Jerry Lorenzo. It was Y3. It was Boost. So it was just encompassed everything that was hyped in that era.
Yeah.
And I wanted it for so long, but I couldn't justify spending 1.5K for a brand new pair. And eventually the hype did die down a little bit.
Yeah.
And then I bought it for myself. Bought it for, I don't know, like $800 or something. So money well spent, I should say. But no, that was my grail. So I think everybody that's collecting shoes or collecting anything always has that one grail.
Yeah.
And that was mine, and I finally got it. And I wore it for a year and a bit and got sick of it, so I sold it.
Far out. That's so cool. So you're like, you're happy. And then there's probably shoe restoration stuff in there as well.
Yep. That's a complete different ball game, which I'm not too sure about.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's like people buying new spikes and doing them up and selling them again.
Yeah, right.
People do that with shoes as well. Yeah.
That is awesome. I think that's a really, really cool thing.
Yeah.
And I think like, because that, if you think about that, that's past you, but it's also like you just had an interest in something and then you just like 10x it.
Yeah.
And just did the thing.
Yeah. So I've always loved clothes, always loved fashion, always loved shoes. And then, there's an opportunity to make money off it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And people do that now.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah. It's just, that was it back in the day.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome, man. And my final question that I ask everyone on here, which always leads to other questions sometimes, but what is something you do every day or close to every day that makes you feel like you've optimized the day?
I feel like I've optimized the day. Holy moly, that's a deep question.
Very deep.
Oh, I think just going to the gym.
Okay.
For me, just being able to have that time period where I just focus on myself.
Yep.
Obviously, my job is quite social. I'm trying to look after other people. So when I can look after myself, whether that be, it's mainly gym, but it could be cooking a nice meal or something like that. So it's doing something selfishly for myself that's productive makes me feel like I've optimized my day.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and feeling okay doing it, I guess.
Yeah, 100% feeling okay, because if I'm doing something selfishly, I'm like, oh, I could be doing something else.
Yeah.
Why am I doing this sort of thing? But I don't have that with going to the gym.
Yeah.
So, look good, feel good, do good.
Awesome,
That's
man.
that's my motto.
Yeah. And then just on that, so, you're saying you're going to the gym. Now, as a physio, and this is something that I find quite interesting, like I have friends who are doctors and all that. Your practice in itself, Do you practice what you preach when it comes to like making sure? Sorry, well, we might lose your job here.
Let's start the podcast.
But do you find it difficult to, actually take care of yourself the way you would take care of the people you're dealing with?
Yeah. I mean, physios are the worst patients.
Sure.
Because we know what to do. We just don't do it.
Yeah.
Do I practice what I preach?
You still work out.
Yeah, I still work out.
You stay physical, so
yeah, I still stay active.
Yeah.
I know my weaknesses.
Yep.
I know what to work on. So yes, I do work on them. I think my biggest weakness at the moment is my poor hip mobility.
Right.
Am I doing anything for it? No.
Okay.
But is it bothering me? No. It's not making me worse functionally at all.
Sure.
Yeah, it just makes me. I can't squat heavier because of my hips.
Okay.
But it's not a goal for me to squat heavy.
Right.
So I'm not too bothered by it.
Yeah.
If it did eventually become a goal, sure, I'll work on it.
Yeah.
So do I practice what I preach? Like yes and no.
Yeah.
Yes and no. I preach about being active.
Yeah.
Am I active cardiovascularly, aerobically? No, I need to do more of that.
Right.
My aerobic engine is very poor.
Yeah.
But I can get back into that.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's always something you can improve on. So
For sure.
yeah, I do practice what I preach.
Fantastic.
To our point.
Yeah.
To our point. Everybody has their flaws.
Yep.
Everybody has their flaws. So you gotta do what you love.
Yep.
Gotta do what you enjoy.
Yeah, cool. And then, sorry, something just came out when I was thinking about your grail for shoes wise. Is there somewhere that you want to be career wise? Something that you're aiming for, or something that you'd like to be kind of pushed towards in the near to long future?
I've never been a big goal setter in the long run. I just want to see what I can do in the sports scene. Whether I can make it to be a super rugby physio, as a lead physio, or just keep doing teams along the way. I just want to keep doing what I do and see how long I can do it for. Obviously, I still have that hand therapy I want to fall back on eventually.
Cool.
So that'll be something I want to do in the future when, my hands are tired from bloody elbowing that 100 kg props all the time. So once I get tired of that, then I'll move into hand therapy.
Fantastic. Oh, no, that's cool. That came full circle.
It did?
Yeah.
Wow.
So like the reason you started is going to be still like somewhere where you're at the end,
yeah,
and that's
for
awesome,
sure.
man. And it gives you back your freaking cold ass evenings and your Saturdays as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's just Dunedin's so cold.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why I want to leave as well.
Fair enough.
Especially with the Tuesday, Thursday night trainings and the frost.
Yeah.
That was a great time, eh?
Oh man, it was horrible. And we were out there being active and getting sweaty, and it was still cold. So if you're just standing,
I was just standing there with my hands in my pocket, trying not to look too cold.
Yeah.
It wasn't a great time.
No, we've appreciated it, man. Everything, like the weekly chats, the weekly therapy, actually going through stuff, the Saturday amp ups, seeing you on the sideline as well. And it's always a nice thing. So we're looking forward to seeing everything that comes out, man.
Cheers,
all
mate.
the best for the future. I hope we get to see you running out with with a Super Rugby team, or even if it is national one day, and you're out there looking thick and all that gear. That's what we're after, mate.
Yeah, I mean, AU will always be my club. Otago Spirit will always be my club.
Yep.
I will always be a Bronco, and I will always bleed blue and gold.
Fantastic, mate. It's a good place to leave it. Thank you very much.
Yo, cheers.